Ahoy! The SMITE 10.1 bonus update is live, and since I've been playing the game a fair bit lately, let's actually talk about it. There's one skin that gets released with this patch, which is the Ice Wraith Gap skin. Looks pretty cool. The first big thing are some very important bug fixes. Multi-queue now actually should work. It should now assign you a role in the pre-match lobby, and it should no longer not tell you what mode you're in. Along with that, you should also be able to re-roll guards in Assault when using multi-queue. In Conquest, the Titan should now receive extra health and protections for any friendly structure, both towers and phoenixes, that are still alive. And also there's an issue with the bastions that they can currently be healed by guard abilities. Now they have 90% healing reduction applied. I'm not sure why they didn't just go 100%. Either way, I don't like bastions. I think they should just be entirely removed. They're just annoying. And, well, I wish they couldn't be healed at all. So, yeah, I'm not sure why they're leaving this 10% on there. Surtr's imps from his ultimate no longer proc in-hand item effects, and the radius of Cannoneer's cuirass has been increased from 30 to 80 units for the bonus gold from killing a minion. I think this is a lot more convenient, especially because you're usually playing with a hunter who likes to stay a bit further back. The first significant nerf here is to the speed buff. With a few days of official gameplay on the new map, some patterns are starting to emerge. Jungles have shown to be hugely impactful due to strong buffs in multiple ways. As an initial response to this, we are nerfing the speed buff's base movement speed by a noticeable amount. This tends to be a strong contributor, so we want to address it first and then revisit their top items or guards later after assessing the effects of this change. Decrease the base movement speed from 14 to 10%, so the total, what used to be 20% beforehand if you get the stacks, is now 16%. And the two buffs on the map do in fact not stack. No, I know that people have been talking that this is actually possible. It's not. They do not increase your movement speed combined. It's likely that people are seeing the increase because they just killed the speed buff mobs and then they kind of just misperceive that as being an actual movement speed increase. It is not. What I will say about this nerf is that, in my opinion, as a jungler, it's frustrating because it's always the first thing they go for. They sometimes try to increase the speed again a little bit, like it used to be. It used to be just flat 20% at some point, but then they always go back and like, oh, actually, junglers are too strong, it's so bad, we can't do that, and it's the first thing they target before considering anything else. The problem, or why junglers are so oppressive at the moment, is mainly because they have nothing else to do on the map but gank. The most efficient way to clear the map early just means that almost all camps are already cleared when the jungler is supposed to go into the jungle after the initial handing out buffs phase. And that leaves them with very few tasks on the map, and the respawn timers don't help that either. So yeah, if you want junglers to be less oppressive in lanes, you might just want to look at the spawn timers of the buff camps so they actually have an alternative to just trying to gank constantly. But you know, that's just my take on this. The first item to be tackled here is Claw Shot, which gets its magical power reduced by 5 and its physical power also reduced by 5 to 15 and 10 respectively. I think Claw Shot is honestly a little bit overrated. It's strong if you want to pressure a lane with it, like you want to pressure a wave, but outside of that, there are better shots to have. I think this is just the first one people go to because they see power and they're like, power is good, so that's what I'm gonna get. Might talk about that more in the future, but yeah, whatever, it's getting nerfed, it doesn't matter, but I don't think it even needed the nerf all that much, to be honest. On the other hand, the next nerfs seem very justified. Sundering Axe gets a reduction to its current health steal from 4% to 3% on the passive, because warriors in general have been overperforming, and this is most certainly a warrior item. Bluestone Pendant kind of got shifted in terms of how the damage works. It doesn't ramp or stack anymore and just has an increased base damage. And that was just a little bit too much, with it being picked up in 3 different roles at this point, with assassins and hunters also picking it up. So the bonus damage here is decreased from 60 to 48, with the bonus damage per tick going down from 15 to 12. Similarly, Bluestone Brooch is also getting nerfed, with the bonus damage being decreased from 200 to 180, so 50 per tick down to 45 per tick. The 15% current health bonus damage scaling will also now apply to guards only. The second part here is primarily targeted at jungle bosses because you could deal a decent chunk of their health too. Contagion gets its tick damage decreased from 40 to 35. This item is still incredibly strong. It punishes you for playing aggressive against anyone who has it at all. It's super strong early. I saw someone rushing it and kind of forgot that the passive exists now, or that it has this new effect now, and it just completely punished me in lane every time I was just looking for any attempt of a fight. I don't think this issue will be solved with this 5 damage reduction at all. However, they're already saying here that they're planning more nerfs and fixes for this in the 10.2 main update. Archdruid's Fury gets a nerf that makes me a little bit sad. The item now deals magical bonus damage instead of true damage. That is a massive damage nerf for an item that honestly was super fun to pick up and support. I can kind of see why it's happening because it's not just a support item as well, but I wish that the true damage could have been kept somehow. Effectively, this once again feels like solo laners ruining the fun for supports to some degree. I will say that I don't think the nerfs that are being done here are fully targeting the problems with solo laners at the moment, because I feel like a big factor in that is also the massive amount of mitigation that they're running around with, and that hasn't really been tackled here at all. I don't know if we'll see more in the next update, but they're not really mentioning it, and I find that kind of weird. I feel like the solo side issues aren't exclusively reserved to the damage side of things. Tablet of Destinies is getting a buff, increasing the damage per stack from 0.08 to 0.14. I actually thought this item didn't even feel bad beforehand, so this surprised me a little bit, but well, the problem with it is one that Pretty Prime pointed out pretty well, in my opinion, saying that it kind of forces you to build Book of Thoth as well in order to fully be effective, and then you're working with this double stacking situation that kind of takes away from any build flexibility, and that makes it much less usable in other items. And I can see that point very much, so that, I think, is something worth considering in the context of this item. And also the problem that while it works well with Thoth, it's not necessarily like guards that would like to have additional damage on their abilities are the best Thoth users at the same time, mainly because some guards have less damaging abilities than others and so on. So basically you want to have a guard that has short cooldowns so they can proc it often, but a guard that has short cooldowns and has spammy abilities will likely opt into more cooldown to make the abilities more spammy and not into something that just provides them with power. You get the idea. Surtr is definitely performing a little bit over the top, so he is getting some nerfs. Obsidian Flesh actually gets a decrease to the protections buff from picking up a fragment from 10 to 6. I completely misinterpreted this passive for some reason. I thought that only the healing part stacked. I don't know why I thought that. I didn't realize that everything on the passive stacks. As such, I think this nerf is actually not going to be enough. With how much this protection scales up and everything, I think that's just insufficient in terms of his overall survivability potential, especially in later stages of the game. Emberwalk gets its base damage reduced by 10 across all ranks, from 45 to 125 down to 35 to 115. This damage triggers twice per fire of this ability. So basically this is not the continuous damage of the outer ring, but the damage that happens when it pops out and goes back in. I think this will probably get some further nerfed in the future, because I think the overall damage output this can do and how much it can do, especially for your clear as well, is pretty crazy. Maui is performing extremely well and is getting a bunch of nerfs, unsurprisingly. Mystical Ulua has the movement speed decreased from 8 to 16 to 8 to 12%. Solar Swing has the base damage decreased from 110 to 335 to 90 to 315. So at least early game this will have significantly less pressure. And by far the most important change, Landfall has its cooldown increased from 90 seconds to 110 seconds. Feels very appropriate for the strength of this ultimate. Kronos is getting a nerf to Bramble Blast. The initial damage is decreased from 70 to 210 to 55 to 195, so quite a fair bit less early pressure. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a Kronos on the new patch yet, so I don't even know how strong he really feels, but must be pretty strong if they're going with such a drastic nerf for the bonus balance. And as I already predicted, we're seeing once again another Ishtar nerf. This time it's hitting imbue arrows. Spread shot damage is decreased on the side arrows from 5 to 10% to 5 to 8% of your basic attack damage. This especially reduces the pressure on objectives slightly as well, so I think that is a very good and kind of expected nerf. It's kind of one of those that I thought would happen very early on. The second nerf is to the damage of Strike Shot, which goes down from 14 to 30 to 8 to 28. But at the end of the day, that's just bonus damage. I think the big damage of this ability, of this, well, steroid, will always come from the fact that it's an AoE basic attack in itself, which works with your Hunter basic attack damage. So this is just a minor factor in my eyes in comparison. And I personally don't think this will change very much. It might maybe have certain points in the game where it is just not quite enough to clear some archers with the wrong items essentially, so it can always have an impact in that way, but overall it feels like a very small difference. All in all, there are definitely some interesting and positive changes in this patch. I am wondering if in the next patch they are looking at the whole jungle split in the beginning, because I don't really know if that's how they wanted things to go. Like, that's my biggest thing with the new map right now, that basically all camps are just getting pulled together, and it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of weird. So I wonder what will happen in that regard. For now, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell. And thanks to my patrons for supporting this video. Sloth, out.